Today we're going to talk about unit circle. So the unit circle. The unit circle is going to help us when we start talking about trigonometric functions. So when we talk about a unit circle, the reason why we use this word unit is because this circle has a radius of 1. So that radius means that we're from the center to a point on the circle, from the center to a point on the circle, from a center to a point on the circle. That's going to be 1 all the way around. So this radius is 1. So no matter how many things we put on it, the radius is always going to be 1. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to break this up into degrees, and then we're going to come back and we're going to break them up into radians. So the first thing we're going to do is decide, if we start with 0 right here, all the way around a circle is how many degrees. So if this is 0 degrees, then all the way around the circle we know is 360 degrees. So 1 complete rotation is 360 degrees. Now, if I take that 360 degrees and I divide it in half, this point over here, half of 360 is going to give us 180 degrees. Now, we also could take that and divide it into 4 pieces if you want. So 360 divided by 4 would give us 90. So this first one is 0, so this one would be 90 degrees. Now you can see that 90 degrees plus this gives me 180. So 90 plus 180 gives me 270. We call those the quadrantial angles because we cut them into 4 parts, like our coordinate plane. So what if I take and now I cut these in half? What is that going to do? Well, let's go back down here. So it's starting at 0 degrees, and 360 is all the way around. So that means this one was the 90. This one was the 180 degrees. This one is 270 degrees. And this one's back to 360. So half of 90 degrees is going to give us 45 degrees. So each of these sections is going to be 45 degrees. So all I have to do is each time is add 45 degrees. So 0 plus 45 gives me 45. 45 plus 45 gives me 90. 90 plus 45 gives me 135. 135 plus 45 gives me 180. Plus 45 would give me 225 degrees each time, down to 270. Then this one's going to be plus 45 gives me 315. Plus 45 gives me 360. So each one of those sections is going to be 45 degrees. So I'm now going to do another separation. We'll come back to these to do some more with them in a minute. First, we're going to put our quadrantial angles on it. So this is going to be my 0 degrees. My 90 is up here. My 180. My 270. And then back to 360. But now, how many pieces are they cut into? So we're going to go a half of a circle. So we've got 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece, 4 piece, 5 piece, 6 piece. So you got 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So if it's a 180 degrees and it's cut into 6 equal pieces, then what do we know about each of those pieces? Well, we know that the first one's going to be 30 degrees because 180 divided by 6 is 30. And then we're going to do like we did with the 45. We're going to add 30 each time. So 30 plus 30 gives me 60. Plus 30 gives me 120 degrees each time. 30 gives me 150, 180, 210, so I'm just adding 30 degrees each time. 240, 270 is already there, 300, 330, and back to 360. So you just went around 30, 30, 30 all the way around. So now if we come down to this bottom one, we can see that we've got everything thrown into a big pot. So we're going to do each one of those individually. But we're going to think back on naming this one first. Then come back and name this one on the same graph. Then come back and do this one on the same graph. So then you would finally have the entire section. So let's start with that then. So this is starting with the fourths all the way around. We know 360 is going to start at 0, be 90 right here. Then this is going to be 180, and this is going to be 270 back, and this is 360. So we did the first one, right? This was the first one that we did. Now we're going to come back and have those in half. So the half line is going to be this line right here, in between each of those. So the half line between 0 and 90, we said was going to be 45 degrees. So we've got 45, 190, 135, 180, 225 degrees each time, 270, 315, and back to 360. We're adding 45 each time. So now the last one is putting in these parts, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now sometimes I tell students, kind of put a little squiggly on that middle one and think about it as being invisible when we're putting the 6s down in. So between 0 and the first mark, if I've got 6 of them, then we know that's going to be 30 degrees. 30 plus 30 gives me 60. 90. 90 plus 30 gives me 120. Plus 30 gives me 150. Plus 30 is 180. Plus 30 is 210. Plus 30 is 240. 30 is 270, plus 30 is 300, plus 30 gives me 330, and thus back to 360. So now we've got everything labeled with our degrees. So give everybody a chance to get that one filled in. Okay, so now we're going to come back, and I said before we were going to put the degrees on first, and we're going to come back and put the radians. So this is going to be degrees was 360 degrees all the way around, so one rotation. So the first set that we went through, degrees are an angle, right? So now we're going to go back and we're going to say, what do we know about the circumference of this circle, the distance all the way around the circle? So we're talking about this arc length now. So one complete rotation when we're talking about the circumference is going to be circumference is going to be C equals 2 times pi times r. So that was our formula for the distance around the circle, the circumference. But what do we know? We know r is equal to 1. So this makes this to be a 1. So we get C equals 2 times pi times 1, which is just going to be 2 pi. So we know one complete rotation around it for the circumference is going to be 2 pi. So we have starting at 0, and then we go all the way around, we have 2 pi. Now we call that 2 pi radians. So like degrees, they have the little circle on it, but radians is just going to be without a units. So we know it's radians when it doesn't have units. It's degrees if it has a degree sign on it. So we're now going to use the same idea we did at breaking things up. So if I have 2 pi and I go half of the way around, how many pi's do I have? Well, I only have 1 pi. If I take that 1 pi and I cut it into 2 pieces, then each of those pieces is going to be half of a pi, or pi over 2. So this would be 1 pi plus another half, so 1½ pi's is going to be 3 pi over 2, because 3 halves is 1½ So these again are quadrantial angles, so we have the 0 and 2 pi, half the way around was pi, half of pi was pi over 2, 1½ pi gives me 3 pi over 2. Now, if I go back and look at the second one breaks it into how many pieces? Well, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So if I have 0 here and 2 pi, and I come over here and this is pi, and I've cut pi into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, then that makes this first one be pi over 4. So this would be 1 pi over 4. So this one, if I have 1 pi over 4, then this would be 2 pi over 4. So if I take 2 pi over 4, and I cancel the 2's out, I'm going to get 1 pi over 2, which is the same thing we set up above. So this is going to be 1 pi over 2. So 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, so that would make this one be how many pi's over 4's? 3 pi over 4. And then this one would be 4 pi over 4. But 4 pi over 4, the 4's cancel and just leave us with pi, right? So we continue counting. 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4. So this one's going to be 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4. So if I have 6 pi over 4, 2 will go into each one of them, so we get a 2 and a 3. So this is 3 pi over 2. So we have 3, this was 6 pi over 4, so this is 7 pi over 4. And this is 8 pi over 4, but 8 pi over 4 just reduces down to 2 pi. So you're basically just counting 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 5 pi over 4, all the way around till you get 8 pi over 4. And if you come up with some that need to be reduced, you just reduce them. All right, so now we're going to look at the next one. So this one, what does it cut it into? We decided to cut it into 6 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if this first one is 0, and all the way around is 2 pi, then again, this is 1 pi. So now if I've cut 1 pi into 6 pieces, how much is each piece? Well, there we know it's 1 pi over 6, because I'm taking pi and dividing by 6. So now we do the same thing we did before. 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6. Well, 2 pi over 6 can reduce down to be pi over 3. So this would be pi over 3. So the next one, we've got 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6. So 3 pi over 6, the 3's are going to cancel and give me pi over 2 like we had before. So this is pi over 2. 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6. But 4 pi over 6 reduces down to 2 pi over 3. 5 pi over 6 just doesn't reduce, so we have just 5 pi over 6. 6 pi over 6 we know is going to come out to be just pi. So this is 7 pi over 6. This one would be 8 pi over 6, but 8 pi over 6 reduces down to 4 pi over 3. So we have 9 pi over 6. 9 pi over 6 reduces down to 3 pi over 2. So we're hoping that was going to be that. We've got 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6 is going to give me 5 pi over 3 when I reduce it down. And 11 pi over 6 is not going to reduce. And then we're back up here to 12 pi over 6, but that's 2 pi. So now we've got all of them with radian measures too. So down here you can measure each one of them with radian measure as well. So we're going to do that on a different page. So we're going to do something like this one. So we're going to fill in all the lines that have to do with degrees and radians as we go around this unit circle. So again, unit circle means that it has a radius of 1. So we're starting with degrees. The degrees are here. So we got 0 degrees, and all the way around is 360. We're going to go do into the fourths first, remember? So this one up here is going to be 90 degrees. And this one right here is going to be 180 degrees. This one right here is 270 degrees. And back to 360. So you got to think in terms of your fourths, right? So when we did the fourths, that was this first one that we did. So now we're going to come back and we're going to think those half marks, right? So we're going to come in here and do the halves. So between 0 and 90, this is the half one. So we know that this one is going to be 45 degrees. And then you're going to continue to add 45 all the way around. So we get 135. We already had the 180, so we get 225. We already have the 270, and we get 315. Back to 360. So what's left? Well, we got the 60s now. So the 30, 60, 90, and so forth all the way around. So that's the one we're going to fill in now. So kind of keep your eyes on what you did before. So 0, 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, and then 180 is already there, right? So this one's going to be 210, 240, 270 is already there, 300, and 330. Back to 360. So you now have all the degrees filled in. So you're going to come back and do the same thing we did with radians then. So we start out with the radians, like we said with the 1/4, then the 45s, but now we're going to put those in. So we're starting out with 0, all the way around is 2 pi. So that would make half of 2 pi to be 1 pi. And half of 1 pi to be pi over 2. So this would be 1 pi plus a half a pi more is going to give me 3 pi over 2. So the next thing we're going to do is decide what the halves are. So we counted and we said 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces that the pi was going to be cut into. So this one was going to be pi over 4. And then we have 2 pi over 4, but that reduces down to pi over 2. And this would be 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4 is already there. 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4 reduces down. So this is 7 pi over 4. And 8 pi over 4 reduces down. So now we've done the fourths, now we have to come back and do the sixths, right? Because this is cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces, like the one that we did here. The one that we have listed right here. So we have pi over 6. This is already filled in, so we don't have to worry about it. So 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6 is pi over 3. So 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6 is already there. 4 pi over 6 is going to be 2 pi over 3. 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6. 6 pi over 6 is already there. 7 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6, if we want to reduce it down, 8 pi over 6 gives me what? 4 pi over 3. This one's already here, so that would be 9. This would be 10 pi over 6, so we get 5 pi over 3. And this one is 11 pi over 6. So now we filled in all the degrees and all the radians. Now we still have these ordered pairs around the outside that we have to do. So we're going to look at that here in a minute with a triangle and a square and see what we can do about that. So we'll come back to do that in just a few minutes in our next session.